how I got started doing digital art. Now this video is aimed at people who are honestly just starting to think about doing this kind of thing. Perhaps you're in high school and you kind of like the idea of dabbling into creating art digitally, and in a way I kind of wish there were videos like this for me when I was a teen, because back then when YouTube started there honestly wasn't this much content that focused on these kind of topics, so that's why I'm doing it. Now firstly, in terms of tech, you honestly do not need anything too fancy to get started. For me, right now as I'm recording this video, I'm still using the Wacom Bamboo MTE 450 model, which I bought around 12 years ago. And you can tell that I got a lot of mileage out of this one, and it's just, you know, a drawing tablet. There's not even a screen on it, so that's why you don't need anything too fancy. It's also an entry-level tablet which had all the basic sort of features you need to create decent artwork, plus at an affordable price. The current equivalent of this is the one by Wacom, and again a similar sort of price range and has similar kind of features. Also, this, you can just tell like it's been really beaten up. I've just had it for so long and I really should be getting a new one. My first tablet in fact was one I got when I was in high school when I was about 15, around 2007, and it was the super old version of the XP pen. Nothing like the ones we have today. It was much more rudimentary, but honestly it did exactly what I just needed to do. It had all the basic features I needed it for, and for my purposes it was just fine. So you really don't need anything too crazy. Personally, I think it's significantly more cost effective to just get a pen tablet like this one, like an entry-level one, as opposed to one with a screen, because you're talking about saving hundreds and thousands of pounds. So especially if you're in high school like I was, getting something like this for about, let's say, an average of £45 nowadays is so much more cost effective as opposed to getting one with a screen. If you get one of these, the only thing you really need to worry about afterwards is the program, the software you want to use to draw with, which comes with its own kind of cost considerations as well. But obviously if you're able to save hundreds and thousands of pounds on your first tablet, getting one that's entry level is honestly the way to go if it were me. Now of course I would agree that drawing directly on a screen tablet is significantly better in a lot of different ways, mainly because of the eye-hand coordination, where it imitates the way we draw naturally a lot closer than drawing on a tablet like this, where you're looking at a screen in front of you. So that takes a bit of getting used to and a bit of a learning curve there as well. But of course, you know, drawing directly on the screen is just much more efficient and accurate. Although I would say that if you already have an iPad or you plan to get one anyway, then definitely do that instead of getting a separate pen tablet and linking it to your computer, because that way all you got to do is just invest in a stylus and Procreate, and then you'd already have a screen tablet. If you plan to get an iPad, then you've got to consider the cost of that. So on a standard iPad it's about £319 right now, and for the iPad Pro it's £749, so yeah, it can be quite costly. In terms of software, there's a lot you could choose from, but obviously the go-to application for a lot of people is Adobe Photoshop. However, they do have a subscription-based model, so in the long run it can be quite costly as opposed to a one-time fee. However, there are a lot of other alternatives to Photoshop which are much more affordable, such as Comastudio Paint and Affinity Designer, both of which have a one-time fee. For Comastudio Paint, you're looking at £36 to £157, one of which is the lighter, more basic package versus the full-blown one with all the features. For Affinity Designer, there's just one, which is £47.99, and both of which, when you look at them in this sense, is obviously much more cost-effective in the long run versus Adobe's subscription-based model. For Procreate, you're looking at £8.99, which is pretty good considering what you get out of it. Now on accessories, for drawing tablets you usually always get a compatible pen to go with it anyway, but for the iPad it doesn't come with one. You have to get a separate stylus to go with it, such as the Apple Pencil, which, looking at a lot of reviews, people do highly regard it as one of the best stylus to be using on the iPad. But yeah, there are alternatives such as the Logitech Crayon. What I would recommend instead is looking at specifically the specs and also reviews, obviously, making sure it has pressure sensitivity, because that is something you really need to have when it comes down to creating different thicknesses in line and brush strokes, and when you're rendering and painting your images. It's super important. Unless you're looking for completely uniform lines and brush strokes, then obviously that's okay. Another thing I would recommend as an accessory is a drawing glove. What these things do is that it basically reduces the friction between your hand and the surface you're drawing on, which means the whole process of drawing is significantly smoother. Your palm just glides across the surface, and it just makes drawings a lot more comfortable to do, as well as, you know, things like like it prevents you from sticking to the surface basically. So if it's really hot and your palms get a bit sweaty, it doesn't, you won't stick to it, which would be super uncomfortable. And what's funny is that I never actually got one of these until this year, like literally about a month ago, and I kind of wonder how on earth did I used to draw before, because if I take these off and I try to draw on the surface, there's just too much like grip and friction. It doesn't feel comfortable, so I can't really go back. So I highly recommend getting one. It just makes the process so much more fluid and makes a better experience when you draw. Plus they're super affordable, you can pick this up for less than £10. And that's pretty much all you really need to get started doing digital art like I did when I was in high school. Entry level tablets are just fine, you don't need anything too flashy. If you've got an iPad, you would get one already, of course that's amazing, go do that. And look, now that you know that there's the right kind of tech, the software and accessories that are all pretty affordable and accessible than you might think, there really shouldn't be anything stopping you from going out there and creating amazing artwork. So I hope that inspires you, and I hope that helped in some way. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel and do all that good stuff. Follow me on my socials at LuxVestra Art. I'm also open to commissions if you ever want to commission me for any artwork. Until then, I'll see you guys in the next video.